Hello and welcome to Driven by Doing. Today we have Dantryl Smith from Dallas Fort Worth. Dantryl, welcome to the show Driven by Doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, so it was funny that while we are just talking along, I found that you're from Memphis. That was super surprising for me being here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I was super excited to reach out to you and connect with you on LinkedIn. And thanks for agreeing to kind of share your story and let's get started.
Okay, let's do it.
So going back to your childhood here in Memphis, where did your story began here in Memphis?
That's funny, man. So I was born in Memphis. My father moved to, he was an air traffic controller and got transitioned to Louisville, Kentucky. And so we moved to Louisville for 8 years, realized we need to be back home closer to family. And so moved back to Memphis and went to private school for at that time we moved back. I was 9, so I was headed to the 3rd grade, and so 3rd through the 6th grade I went to I can't even remember the name of the school now.
Yeah.
It's been so long. But end up going to Craigmont High School, or junior high and high school, and so that's where I kind of developed as a person and as a leader. At that time period, I didn't really understand it, but everything that I was in charge to do, I was always the president. It was like, even when I didn't want it or didn't want to be, that's just kind of how it came to fruition. And so got connected with Youth United Way, got connected with an honor society and inroads, and did internships with engineering companies, and went to the MS Squared program in Andover, Massachusetts, and so just was connected with a lot of different entities, and was always placed in the forefront as a leader. And so that kind of started my roadmap towards where I'm at today, and that's where I got my foundational elements. Was in Memphis. It was in Memphis, and being involved and being connected with so many people. And I think one of the beauty parts of Memphis is when you have individuals, and you've probably seen this, when you have individuals of like mind and are trying to do better and be better. Those individuals will really try to do their best and to do anything to support you to get to that next level. And so it's wonderful to have that type of support. And that's the reason why I have such a passion and love for my city.
That's just amazing, Dantryl. Thanks for sharing that. And
Yeah.
having those leadership roles early in your while you're a kid or you're just getting started, do you think that played a major role to kind of really help you think above and beyond, to kind of hey, this is what my career is? Because a lot of times, because when we talk with students, that's where they get stuck with, hey, I'm trying to figure it out and I didn't really know. That's where the mentoring piece comes along, right? And
Yeah.
just like the way we discussed a while ago about how passionate we are about mentoring students to help in their career to achieve their goals. So is there any specific a mentor, or is it just your parents who helped you guide throughout your career?
That's a great question, man. So after I graduated high school, I went to Iowa State University, and I majored in electrical engineering. So my undergraduate degree is in electrical engineering. And during that time, I liked engineering. I loved maybe different pieces of it, but I didn't really have a passion for engineering. And during that time period, I had to work. I was a broke college student, like many of us were back in those times. And so I had to work on campus. And so luckily, was able to work in multicultural affairs office, engineering outreach recruitment, as well as the admissions office. And so having those 3 jobs allowed me to connect with so many people that worked in higher education to better serve students. And so in my roles, I had to do things that were creating these programs and initiatives to support students and to help students be successful on campus. And so it was really during this process that I met a gentleman by the name of Dr. Todd Holcomb, who I still keep in contact to this day, who really impacted my life in a way that I never knew existed. And so I had a lot of mentors while I was at Iowa State, but he really sticks out because he was a person that kind of guided me and helped me to realize what it is that I was passionate about and how to make it a career. So, for example, we would have conversations. And so he was at that time the assistant vice president of student affairs at Iowa State. And, we would have conversations and he would tell me, he said, man, you really have this passion for working with students. Have you ever thought about going into higher education? And, at that time I was, I think when I met him, I was 20, 21. And, I'm like, man, I'm about to get this electrical engineering degree. I'm about to go out here and make this money. You know what I mean? That's where my mind was. But after he had that conversation with me, I started thinking to myself, I was like, man, maybe there's something to that, and so I did some research, and as I always tell folks, do your research. I did some research and asked the questions. And so he said, well, let me just take you to this conference. And one conference turned into two conferences, which turned into three conferences. And so I was able to build this network of people who were interested in the same things that I was in. And so that's when I was like, oh man, like this is great. This is what I want to do. And so he helped me, pick out my graduate schools that I applied to, and I ended up going to the University of South Carolina, the real USC, for those folks that don't know that. But yeah, I went to the University of South Carolina, man, and that's where everything just blossomed because I was in my passion. I was in higher education. I was in my field that I could see myself doing for the rest of my life, and so that's where it really started, and that's who helped me get to the point to where I am today.
Wow, it's really interesting how you made that transition, because a lot of people are super afraid to really take that leap of faith to understand what they really love. And it's great that you understood and you had a mentor at that very early stage to help you, guide you, and navigate through that journey, because a lot of folks might not have that kind of a mentor who can really help them understand what do they really like. So I was glad that you mentioned that how your mentor helped navigate that journey. And a lot of times people are super afraid to make that change, and it's not easy, because you just mentioned that, hey, you're an electrical engineer, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to
Yeah.
make money. And sometimes it is even difficult for parents to kind
Right.
of, what do my kid saying now? Like, he doesn't want to become an engineer. That's what he studied all these years, right? So are there any incidents that you had to go through to kind of convince anybody to kind of transition into this new career, that people might not understand that it is the right fit for you, but that it is the right thing to do?
It's funny you said that because one of the questions that I always get on an interview, no matter what job I apply for, they say, what, you have an electrical engineering degree and you're working in higher education? And so I had to always tell my story, which is great because this is what we're doing now, having the opportunity to share the story. And I think people learn through stories. But I didn't really have many people that question the change for me, because I was always what they would say, not a typical engineer. You know what I mean? Like, I was a person that was always involved. I had my hand in everything. I knew this person, that person, like I was traveling doing this. And back then, early, we're talking about 2001, 2002. I didn't fit the description of what a typical engineer was at that present time. And so when I went to transition to be in higher education and work with students, everybody was like, oh, this is where you should have been all the time. And so it was more of the, what took you so long conversation, more as, why did you make the change? So, yeah.
Mhm. So because it is super difficult to kind of even understand what our true passion is, So what would you tell, like, even students who are listening, or even professionals who feel that, hey, like, I got stuck in this job role. I really wanted to explore more and try different things to be able to like really expose myself to these great opportunities that, again, with technology, there are like so many different roles that we are seeing every single year that we
Right.
even haven't heard of 5 years ago. So
Yep.
what would you tell any of our audience who are thinking about trying different things, who might not see the work that they're doing right now for a long time? So how can they transition into this new thing or test several things to identify their true passion?
Man, that's a loaded question, brother. I'm gonna try to answer your question as good as possible, but I love your question. One of the first points of things is I would tell anybody, and I share this with my students, is everybody has their own journey, and so when you're a mentor, it's not my role as a mentor to force you down the same path that I went to. And if you have a mentor that's telling you those things and doing those things, that person is not your mentor. That person's your parent. You know what I mean? And so you already have two of those, and you don't need it. You don't need any more. But your mentor is there to really guide you. And so when you are in a job that, in my opinion, um, 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the line, you're looking at it and saying, okay, is this something that is really allowing me to make the impact that I feel like my purpose is here on earth? And if you can say yes to that, then, by all means, you're in the right job, and just continue to just find your own niche within that job. But if your answer to that question is, well, no, like, I don't think that. Well, then you have to do a reassessment and to say, okay, well, what things really bring me passion? What things do I really enjoy doing? And how do I bridge all the different skill sets that I have together? For me, and I'll say this is what worked for me is, I love certain aspects of engineering, like the strategic planning, the mindset, the way that you had to think big picture and bring this piece here, bring this piece there. I love that. Like I could sit there and talk about that type of stuff all day. But the other aspects of it, I just didn't like. And to be behind a desk at that time, I was working for a couple of engineering companies as an intern. So I was getting that experience as an intern, which I tell folks all the time, make sure you get an internship. And so it gives you like a small glimpse of what it is that you would be doing. And so I just didn't like it, man. I was behind a desk. I was doing programming, and I would go out, interact with people like, maybe once or twice a week. And I was like, oh no, like I can't do this. Like I love the interaction. Like I have to be talking to people. I have to be, rubbing elbows and doing all of those things. And so um, in lieu of all of that, when I truly realized that higher education was a passion of mine, and the way that I realized it was because I knew that I was having a true impact on students' lives. And, students would come up to me and say, Dantryl, or Dr. Smith or Dr. D, whatever they call me, man, they call me all different types of things. But, they would say, man, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have believed that I can go and get a doctorate degree. It's like, you set that precedence. And I was like, well, I never even had a conversation with you about going to get your doctorate. But they would tell me it's because that you have it, and you're just so passionate about the process that you went through to get it, that it motivated me to really think about taking that next step. And so when I see that impact that I have, and it just gives me more confirmation that I'm in the right path. And so when you're looking for things, I would just say, what things are giving you confirmation to say, hey, I'm in the right field, I'm in the right work environment that's not only benefiting me, but giving me an opportunity to really give back and benefit others. And so, I mean, there's other ways that you can give back, right? I mean, like I could be in a job that, makes a lot of money, but not necessarily fulfilled. But you can volunteer with other organizations to where you can still give that aspect. And I think it's through those conversations, through those networks, through those opportunities that you're able to really hindsight kind of get an idea of maybe how you can bridge the two together so that you are being fulfilled and you're in that way on your particular job. But, I just tell anybody any day, man, I got a degree in engineering. I didn't stop. One of the main reasons why I didn't stop was because I told my mom I was going to get an electrical engineering degree. And then once I start something, I always finish it. And I was just too far along to where I wanted to change my major. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna get this degree. I'm gonna have it because the skill sets that I learned through those, 4 or 5 years of electrical engineering was phenomenal, man. And so I can't change that because it's made me who I am today.
That's amazing story, and
Yeah.
thanks for sharing all those great tips. And you just shared that whatever you start, just finish it, right? So because that might be a dream for your parents, seeing their kid as an engineer, and you have delivered that promise back to them, and that might also give them the belief that hey, he can achieve anything
Right.
that he wants to achieve in his life.
Yeah.
And you found that purpose, and you that resonates every day today. Every day now your work is enjoying whatever you're doing, right? So that's something that people resonate with, because they love doing that. And you talk with several students and you inspire them, and you make them believe what somebody else helped you to identify that is your passion. And I think thanks for sharing that story, Dantryl. And now coming back to your current role, you mentor a lot of students at community colleges, and now you're also overseeing a district. So tell us about your role, and how you're shaping up these careers for a lot of students.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And before I jump into that, I'm gonna touch on something else that I forgot to share. But what you just said resonated with me is that I think a lot of times, you know, true mentors, and we're talking about mentors, and we talk about true mentors, people who really want to help you be successful, is that they share a lot of their challenges and they share a lot of their pitfalls. You know what I mean? And I think that's the beauty of mentoring when you're really passionate and you love it, is you share those pitfalls with people. And so I've always just been 100% honest. I mean, that's just who I am. That's what you get when when you're talking to me. And I have no problem sharing a lot of my pitfalls. Like, when I was in, coming from Memphis, back in that time, I mean, the state of Tennessee was ranked, I think, 43rd out of 50 in terms of its educational system. And so, going to Iowa State, where the state of Iowa was ranked 5th at that present time. So a lot of those a lot of those students that came to Iowa State were already many steps ahead because they had been exposed to it at high school. But then not only that, though, people who were majoring in engineering were at a whole nother level. So you can imagine, Black man coming to the state of Iowa where there's not many people who look like me, and then to go into the field of engineering where there's even less people who look like me. It was extremely challenging. And so I had to overcome a lot of issues and challenges, man, that, there was many days that I just felt like I just couldn't do it. And I wanted to give up. And I had some professors that even told me I should give up. Yeah. And, made me believe that, I didn't belong. And so it was some internal passion within myself, the pride within myself to keep on finishing. And then I did it, man, I graduated. And so when I went to graduate school and even in my doctoral program, I faced so many different roadblocks and challenges, man. And this is my thing. Like, sometimes there's roadblocks that are there, there's challenges that kind of help you go a different direction. But then there's other challenges that are placed in front of you to see how bad you really want it, right? And so a lot of those challenges that were placed in front of me was kind of like, okay, I might have to go through this because there's going to be somebody behind me who's going to need some type of support to be able to get to the point where they need to be. And so by me sharing my story, me sharing my pitfalls, it's been a motivational factor. It's been a strength factor. It's been a common denominator that allows people to be able to move past, the points and references and challenges that they're dealing with. But, not only being a Black man, I'm working in the field of education where there's not many of us. And so the perception always is that, okay, well, he's either this way or, he's not in it for the right reasons. And so having to fight against a lot of those perceptions and to fight against a lot of the racism and all of that, man, I'm standing here today, man, as a huge testimony for anybody. So I say all that and I just wanted to add that, but, your question was regarding about what am I doing now to really help students. And so before I came to Tarrant County College, I worked at the University of North Texas in student activities department. Was there for 5 years, left there, went to the University of Texas at Arlington, worked in transfer student services for 5 years, left there and came to Tarrant County College. And so in my current role, I oversee the intercultural net. It's kind of a shop hub for student support resources. So students come in our office, we get them advised on their classes. Then we try to get them connected with a variety of different programs, resources, speakers, mentors. We're that network, we're that hub. So they come in and we assess their needs based upon, conversations that we have with them. And then we kind of like mold their pathways. We put them on a guided pathway based upon their interests. And so nothing's mandatory, it's all circumstance. You can, do whatever you want to do. You can either take the advice or you can leave it. That's the perfect part about working with college students is like, hey, I can give you the advice, but I don't have to hold your hand. You know what I mean? And so our office, what we do is we collect all that information. We have conversations with them and we create guided pathways for these students to send them off. And so in my current role, one of the things that I was charged with doing was they knew I had a research background in mentoring. So the president of the particular campus that I worked with approached me and said, hey, I think you should do a mentoring program, but it should be for all 6 campuses. So not just the one that you work at. So I was like, oh man, there's that leadership piece again. It's like, I just want to come here. Like I just started working, you know what I mean? Like I've only been here for 6 months and now you want me to do this for the entire district, entire 6 campuses where I don't really know that many people. And, but he said he saw something in me. He said, you can do it and you got my support. And so I went back to the drawing board, did some more research, talked to some of my colleagues that are in the mentoring game, like myself. And, did what I had to do, made those connections with people across the district. And then we implemented, man, and got it as a professional development opportunity for faculty and staff. And so they're able to get, multiple hours of credit for professional development so they can have that with their boss. And then after they sign up for our program, they're actually paired with a student. And so that's kind of how all of that came to fruition. But like I said, in my current role, what we do is we're a hub for all student programming, and we just get them connected on campus.
Thanks for sharing a lot of that great insights and also your current role, Dantryl. Again, going back to your struggles that you shared, there was a lot of great things that you shared with us today, and how you were able to overcome. And it's very difficult. And one thing that I wanted to ask you is how that diversity played a role in your success, because one thing going out of Memphis and going out to Iowa that really exposed you for a lot of different things, and you might have seen students coming from all across the states. And how did that played a role? A lot of people said that you might not make it, but you are constantly fighting against all the odds. And sometimes we see so many students dropping out in the middle. And some stat I was looking at recently is only 40 students out of every 100 students, especially from diverse backgrounds. actually graduate from college,
Graduate from
right?
college.
So that was like, even if we can make a little bit of difference in that percentage, that makes a lot of difference, right? So what do you, in your story, what would you tell the students who are listening, who are doubting themselves, or who are at that edges, who are asking or thinking about, hey, how can I get this help? I wanted some kind of confidence that can help me come out of this journey in true colors. What would you tell those kind of students who are kind of struggling and being at that age?
I would tell them don't give up. It's the cliche, but I would tell them that if anybody can graduate and get a doctorate degree, I can. You can. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I was got kicked out of Iowa State. I'll share that. I graduated from Iowa State with a 2.65 GPA. Didn't think I was going to get out of there. Went to graduate school, the University of South Carolina. Had some racial incidents that happened to me during my time period, and it made me doubt my own purpose and my own role, and so almost got kicked out of University of South Carolina. Dealing with that, but persevered, graduated, and then actually left there, went to the University of North Texas, worked for a year, and then decided to go back and get my doctorate. And so even during that time period, I had a lot of doubters and then people, hating and stuff like that. But I truly was determined. And so ended up graduating there with the, 3.83, GPA in my doctorate program. But, I would just tell, I tell students all the time, just don't give up, and one of the big things that you just talked about was diversifying yourself, and that's key, particularly working in higher education when you are dealing with people that are coming from a variety of different places, right? And so and this is one of the things that I tell young professionals that are in the field of higher education, is you got to get exposure and you got to diversify yourself as much as possible, particularly when you're a person of color, trying to move up in different roles. And so the more exposure that you get, the more opportunities kind of open their doors for you. It's one thing to get all the education, but if you don't have the work experience or the diverse experiences to back that up, then it's harder for you to move up. And so I knew I wanted to work with students. And so that's the reason why. And I love to travel. That's what I love to do. I love to travel. And I was always looking for a different place that I could go that I had never been before, so I can get that exposure. So, going from Memphis at that time was a city that was black and white. Went to Iowa State that was predominantly white. You know what I mean? And so, but before that, I was in the MS Square program, which exposed me to people across the world. Like my roommate was from Japan, and we had so many crazy conversations. We were up, 3, 4 in the morning talking about so many different things about culture. And so it was that experience that showed me that there's more out there in the world. So I went to college in engineering, where most of the people that were in engineering were at that time period, they were from India or they were white. That's all I saw in my engineering programs. But they were people that I had never really been exposed to, because growing up in Memphis, I was around all people that looked like me. And so to have that kind of diverse experience just catapult me to being and wanting more of that. So I went to South Carolina and got, more diverse experience. Went to the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, where I worked with Native American and Latino students. And so when I got into my current role, like I'm at now, the community college, when I go to meetings or I'm interacting with students and they say, oh yeah, I'm just struggling right now because I'm from, Albuquerque and things are just different here. I was like, what part of Albuquerque? Man, I love Albuquerque. And so I can have a conversation with like, what, that? So I'm able to relate a little bit of their culture and make them feel comfortable. And so then it's like, oh, I finally have a safe space. I have somebody who understands what, I mean when I say I miss this place. And so I would just tell students all the time, man, is if anytime you get an opportunity, take advantage of it, whether that's, coming on here, doing a podcast, or that's interning with your office, or whether that's, bouncing ideas off a mentor and just having a conversation and, sharing people with your interests, and be bold about it. Like I tell my mentees when I take them to different conferences, I say, your purpose is get an internship. I said, so, we're here at a conference, and, you walk up to people and you introduce yourself, but you tell them folks you need a job, and you tell it just like that. And you can just say, if they say, well, wow, that's kind of bold, you say, well, that's my mentor over there, Dantryl, Dr. Smith. He told me to tell you that. So, you know what I mean? So you can blame it on me if they say that. But I just tell people, keep pushing. Listen to stories like this, have conversations, and just learn from people's experiences, and just don't give up. Don't give up.
That was amazing, Dantryl. And every day you see a lot of students who are facing the same kind of challenges, and you are that support system for them. And you just shared an example and how you kind of help students to be bold and ask for things that they love. And sometimes it is just that there are so many people who want to help us, and sometimes we just need to get uncomfortable to really ask those questions and ask for help, because a lot of times we are afraid inside.
Right.
To see if that is appropriate or that is the right thing. Like, what would you tell people who are afraid inside to ask for help?
Man, that's the $1 million question. I think a lot of times, people see people like you and like me, and they like, oh, well, they made it. They don't have a story. They don't. They're above end. I'm scared to go talk to them, and it's like, well. No, I was just like you. If not, I was in even worse shape. You know what I mean? But I think it's got to work. It's got to work two ways. In terms of the mentee, you have to learn to try to identify people that may be in the same realm as you. But then I think also we as mentors have to make ourselves vulnerable. And so when we're going into these spaces where we're being exposed to students, and we have an opportunity to share our story, we share our story. I was speaking to a group. I posted this on my LinkedIn account at the MS Squared program that I was talking to you about. And so I had an opportunity to go back and talk to the current members that were in the high school, in the program. And, I'm sitting there and I'm a panel of, maybe five people. And so four of them started talking, but they talked about their successes and, what they were doing and all of that. So when it came to me, I was like, well, I'm gonna take a different path. I'm going to tell you about my failures. When I was in the MS Squared program in high school, they almost kicked me out. You know what I mean? Because I said, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't the smartest person. I worked hard, but I wasn't the smartest person. And I was in the room with, probably the 50 smartest people in the country. And here I am at the table, I'm even doubting myself because I don't even know if I can do it. So, that's really, kind of what I would just say, man, is that, when it comes to those things, that's what you really have to do is you have to be proactive, have those conversations. And, one of the tips that I always would tell students is when you're trying to pick a mentor is to have a conversation with somebody you feel comfortable with. So somebody that you already look up to, and then you can do this two things. You can either have that personal conversation and say, okay, how did our relationship really happen? What really brought that out? Or you could look at it and reflect and say, okay, I had a real strong relationship with Dr. Smith. What was it about our relationship that I really liked? And so then you start to think to yourself, okay, you write down those 10 things or 5 things that you really liked about that relationship, or the reason why you thought he was real cool. And then, when you're interacting with other people, just in passing by our conversation, you can maybe try to ask questions, or just in dialogue, try to pick up or ask questions specifically that would answer those 5 skill sets that person may have. So like, for example, I'm come up here and we're talking, and I'm passionate about, you're passionate about Memphis, and so you just put out there, you're passionate about Memphis, and so I'm like, oh man, I'm passionate about Memphis too. And so I asked you the question, well, what is your passion about Memphis? Why do you like about Memphis so much? And so then we're able to draw a connection, not only because we're from the same city, but it's really trying to focus in on what things really work well in in other relationships. And so then finding those same skill sets in others by asking questions, having conversations, and not be afraid to talk. I mean, we have to be vulnerable with each other. And like I said, it goes both ways. And so when you find a mentor, you find somebody that's not afraid to share their story, then those are the people that you need to grasp onto, because those are the people that are always going to be real with you no matter what. And so it's funny because I'll be walking down the halls and one of my students will say, hey, mom, that's my mentor right there. I'm gonna meet you, my mentor. I'm like, man, I had no clue I was your mentor, man. You know what I mean? So now we need to have a different type of conversation. If you're saying I'm going to be your mentor, because I take being a mentor extremely serious, and I don't play any games. Like if I'm going to be your mentor, I'm gonna hold you accountable, and I'm gonna hold myself accountable to that. But that's what I would do. I would just say, start with having a conversation, but just reflect on those 4 or 5 things in a successful relationship that you've had in the past, and then look for those things in the next person.
That's just amazing. Great tips, Dantryl, and thanks for sharing all those great insights.
Yeah,
And
man.
once I hear your story, it was like every time you're almost kicked out, but you're determined, right? So it was just your sheer determination that like really helped you to wherever you are, and you're just getting started. By, if you don't mind me saying, and like there is lot many lives that you're going to touch
I
that
appreciate
can
that, man.
really shape. You're going to shape a lot of great careers. And thanks for being on the show. And is there anything that you would like to share, for the audience to reach out to you?
Yeah, man. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook, Dantryl Smith. If you want to reach me on Instagram, I'm on Instagram, Dr. Trail 06, Dr. Dr. Trail 06. You can reach me out there. You can also email me, Dantryl, DANTRAYL.Smith at tccd.edu. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can look me up there. I'm available, and so if you need anything, I'm here for you. I love to help students. I love to help, even professionals that are in the field. They're wanting to connect and wanting to get to point A to point B. Yeah, hey, I'm here to help you as well. So just hit me up. All those different platforms. I want to say, thank you again for allowing me this opportunity, man. I truly feel blessed and honored to be on your show. I was listening to the different podcasts, and I was like, man, like it seemed like he's had some big wigs on there, man. I'm like, I don't even know how I really would be able to compete with the people that he's bringing on. So I just want to say, man, I really appreciate it. I'm honored, and when you asked me, I didn't take it lightly, and so was thoroughly prepared for you, man. And I'm looking forward to all the great things that you're going to do, not only with this platform and these storytelling, but just within your business. And I just represent the city of Memphis, man. I'm just proud of you and what you're doing, and continue to keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, Dantryl. That was really fascinating to hear your story. I'm sure a lot of audience are going to resonate with your story, especially coming out of Memphis and you achieving all these great things. And I'm sure you're going to inspire a lot many people
Yeah.
with our show. And thanks again for coming on to show and sharing us your beautiful story with us. And thanks a lot.
All right, man. Take it easy, man. Take care.